So, fair warning to everybody out there, I am a little bit partial to Ramjet because I have a childhood connection to this character and this figure. So if I grade this one a little bit higher than you think I deserve, blame my grandmother. She's the one who bought me the original.
Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and a reviewer who should have retired by now. You have been warned. This is Random Review.
Before we begin, thank you very much to Joseph T. for his contribution to my Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega. Check the links in the description if you'd like to do the same. I'm only asking a tiny little bit to help keep the channel going, and I thank you very much for the support. Now, let's talk Cyberverse. So, normally I kind of give this line a pass outside of like deluxes or just a very rare occasional warrior class that seems to get it right. But one of the size classes that really seems to have been nailing it has been the Ultras, especially the armor flip out versions, the Energon armor gimmick. For whatever reason, Hasbro's just been really nailing those. Clobber was really nice. Rack and Ruin was really nice. And I was kind of hoping things like that would continue with the latest one, Ramjet. I have a childhood connection to Ramjet, so I was really excited to find out that he was getting an actual decent sized figure. And then we got him. Yeah, we need to have a discussion, which is what the whole reviewing thing is about. So, if we look at him, he is the traditional, he's kind of a weird mix, actually, if we look at him really. So, he's got his traditional colors of the off-white, but it's very heavily on the dark gray this time. The instance, the central area of the jet, not painted to match the off-white like usual. So, the colors are a little bit off on him. Also, he has actual VTOLs in his wings like Thrust. So he's borrowing a few things from a fellow Conehead Seeker, which makes him look a little bit more detailed, but throws him off a little bit from your traditional Ramjet. However that works for you, that is for you to decide. If we look at him, he doesn't have a whole lot of paint going on. It's mostly solid plastic colors. The turbines in the back on this section have been painted in a gray. The turbines here for the VTOLs, those are gray, and then of course the cockpit is in that bright yellow. But because it is Cyberverse, the budget's lower, so there's not a whole lot of paint going on to him. He is mostly done in solid plastics. And when you're talking about a kid's toy line, that's actually not a bad thing. It does mean it's going to survive a lot longer. You're not going to risk paint chips and scratches and all that kind of thing that you would normally expect. In a lot of ways, I kind of prefer when they do it with just solid plastic rather than paint. However, he does end up looking a little bit bare. This isn't to say I don't like the look of it. He is a pretty cool looking jet. There's a few things that are off about him. The way his gimmicks and accessories work, one of these thrusters in the back is a little bit higher than the other. That's a little bit distracting. Not terrible though. I'm also going to give a word of warning. For whatever reason, these null rays, they're okay in the jet mode on these wings, but if I plug them in anywhere on the arms, they're also a lot looser. So be wary of that. Also be wary of the door for the Energon armor because it doesn't hold in anywhere. So on some of these, there is a locking mechanism where you can actually just push a little thing and it prevents anything from flipping out when it's not supposed to, or to prevent this from thising. But this one does not have that. It just kind of hangs loose. And in the vehicle mode, when you're holding them like this, that's mostly going to be fine. When you get to the robot mode, it's going to become an issue. So I guess we should go to robot mode and we should actually show you when this thing gets weird. So if I go ahead and take off the null rays, we'll set those aside. And then I have to take these off. So those will become a whole other thing because apparently they needed to throw an extra weapon gimmick into Ramjet, even though he's not supposed to have one. And that just kind of exposes just how hollow these Cyberverse toys can be. Flip down the tail fins like so. I'm also going to give the wings a tilt back just to keep them out of the way a little bit. Yeah, that's going to become an issue. Stay there. In fact, I'm going to fold you down. As long as I'm dealing with you here, I'm going to fold that down. Interestingly enough, the tip of the nose cone can fold up like this. And it's got a double hinge for that. But there's absolutely nothing stopping you from just leaving it there. It doesn't get in the way at all. And in fact, it's actually a little bit cleaner looking that way. So don't bother, is what I say. All right, so raise these up, rotate, and then plug the arms into the shoulders like so. The two sides are going to have two different fits. So if they don't feel the same when you connect them together, it's not just you. That's just how it works. And then open up the legs like so. And we'll go ahead and throw these back on. Put those right there on his shoulders. And that is going to give us our proper look at Ramjet in his proper robot mode. I keep wanting to say thrust because of those stupid VTOLs in the wings. I think if the wings were more brown and without the VTOLs, I wouldn't be making that mistake so many times. But Ramjet here actually doesn't look bad in the robot mode. The color placements are correct. We're seeing a little bit more paint. I like the proportions. He's a heavier built Seeker, the way that we saw them depicted sometimes in Cyberverse, the Coneheads especially. I don't really take too much issue with just the base look of him. The transformation, of course, is just completely simplistic. There's no frills or surprises to it because it's a Cyberverse Ultra. You wouldn't have surprises. But what we do have here is a fairly nice robot. If I'm going to take a look at his head, if I change the focus to get in closer, he actually has a pretty characterful face sculpt. It's one thing I will not take away from Cyberverse, is that the sculpting on the faces actually does present a really nice character sometimes, and this is one of those times. He is highly annoyed, but I will take that over like a straight face that you see on every single Transformer. At the very least, he's showing some personality, which is what I kind of want, really. So, as we said, he's got some more paint going on here. The knees have been properly painted in off-white, a little bit of hits of red too. We see the off-white has also made its way to the chest. Now the off-white is in the proper place, as if that was the top of him in jet mode. Yellow cockpit is still there. Of course, it's a fake one. And the face is painted as well. Beyond that, the arms are left bare. The lower legs are left bare. You pretty much get what you see. Here's where I mentioned this. So because the ball joints are seated in there, there's not a whole lot of room for the peg for the arm. So those do not peg in very far. And it's a little bit loose. So be careful when you're posing it. Speaking of loose, elbows could be a little bit tighter. They are ball jointed and they are just a little bit flimsy. So maybe with the heavier weapons, be a little bit careful. Universal joints in the shoulders, though, that works out. Well, it's ball jointed, so yes. Actually, no. I take that back. This toy does something really weird, which we're going to get to here in a minute. Before that, we'll talk about the hips, which are ball jointed. But because of those wings are going to clash on a lot of those things on his back. You can fold them and hinge them to get a little bit of forgiveness, but not a whole lot. And then, like, when you bend his knee forward, he's just like stabbing with his wing, which would actually be a cool visual if it wasn't getting in the way of the articulation. So he's got the 8 points that I expect a Cyberverse Ultra to have at this point, but unfortunately, he does not quite have the range I was hoping for. He is limited in the articulation department. Before we get into the main focus of this, I am going to talk his extra accessory, which is formed from his 2 thruster engines. So, if I flip this out, I get a piece that I can then scoot into his open hand, and then plug the other one in the back. And get this weird pugil stick thing formed from his jet thrusters. I don't know either. I didn't see him use this in the cartoon. I don't know exactly what they were going for here. I mean, if you're going to pop his thrusters off, why not just make like flamethrower weapons? Why not just make big missile launchers out of them? No, 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 no. Double club. I'm going to rock the double club. I don't get it. I don't try to get it. I just, hopefully I go with it and everything works out fine. So, he's got a really weird extra weapon. He also has the Energon armor gimmick, which we need to get to now. To activate it on this figure, you need to work the shoulder. This shoulder is actually universal, so it can trigger something in his chest to flip the armor out. So we can do that by raising the arm up and flipping the armor out. It is still at very least a cool enough gimmick that doesn't really get in the way. I will give Cyberverse this. They do a good job engineering around the armor gimmick, so it never really interferes terribly with how the toy works. In this case, Ramjet is rocking an eagle-inspired look, which is an interesting choice for someone who likes to crash into things. Now, it doesn't come down far enough for me. If I have to like push him forward to get the head right where I need it to be and get the armor where it looks like it's supposed to sit, but it doesn't want to stay there. I kind of wish it had a locking point or something. It's not bad though. I like the detail on it. I wish it was a little bit painted, but hey, I'll take what I can get. And yeah, it's still an effective little gimmick. I will give the designers that. So, fold down the back. Fold this up like this. Make sure this little tab piece is folded to the front, and that this goes in to that cavity like so. And then we close the whole thing up. And hope all the springs don't like make it all explode out. But should you avoid spring explosions, he will be back in his robot mode proper, and we can conclude this review. He's kind of a letdown considering how impressed I've been with the Ultra class figures since this gimmick became a thing. And yeah, I mean, the articulation is about what I expected, except for the fact that his wings really needed to be shorter so they didn't get in the way so much of his leg articulation. And I'm not a fan of the extra weapon. That I feel like is such a waste. So he's got a lot of downsides and some upsides. I'm a little bit disappointed in this one. And maybe I would be giving it a harsher review if I didn't love Ramjet so much. But we'll take it as is. It's okay. Don't buy it at full price, but if you're a Ramjet fan, get it on clearance. If you're just looking to bolster your Cyberverse character list, wait for it to go on sale. You're not going to be missing out on anything. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.